All right, so Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. Man, what a fucking weird movie. What a shockingly crazy movie, right? So, I have heard of this movie before. I would say it is a horror cult film for sure. I would say it's probably considered a cult classic across the border of horror movies fans and just the community in general. It's pretty notorious. I had heard of it. I didn't really know. I didn't know too much about it. I mean, it's called Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. I haven't seen Maniac, but I know that's about a serial killer, and so I would assume this one's about a serial killer going into it, and yeah, that's pretty much it. Um, I did say I recommend, or I recognized early on. I recognized the main character Henry, and I was like, I've seen him from somewhere, and so I looked up the cast, and I found that Tom Tolles, who plays Otis, I remembered him from fucking Night of the Living Dead, the remake, the Tom Savini movie. Being the unlikable piece of shit that he was in that movie, who fucking shot and killed Tony Todd, asshole motherfucker. But no, I recognized. I believe his name's Michael Rooker. He was in a lot of stuff. He played Merle in Walking Dead, right, for a couple seasons. He also played Grant and fucking Slither. Fucking weird movie that was. And then also he was in like Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, he's pretty big, and I think he actually won some awards for this movie. His performance is fantastic. All right, I'm gonna come out and say this, by the way. This movie was really good. It's really good. It's really fucked up, but in a horror sense, this movie straight up TLDR, uh, really good. I thought it was great. I thought it was incredibly effective. I thought it was super for as small and short of a movie this is, and as simple as it is in concept. You know, I thought it was very enjoyable and fascinating to watch. Now, this movie's 80 minutes long. There's really only three characters for the most part. And it's as simple as a guy is a serial killer who is recently released from prison, who's on parole, living with his former cellmate and his sister. And he turns his friend into a serial killer by taking him with him on his ventures. They kill together, and you have the sister who is kind of a damsel in distress. I love the two characters, Otis and Henry. I think that they both, in this movie's context, they both are awesome, and I really enjoy them for what they are. Um, However, I believe her name is Becky. She is kind of, it's not necessarily for a fault of her own. She's fine. Like, the performance is whatever, but she's just kind of boring. She's just kind of like that typical innocent girl that's kind of in between a rock and a hard place. Like, her fucking brother Otis is a psychotic, incestuous rapist piece of shit. And you know, she's in love with Henry, who's a fucking serial killer. So shocker there. And like, she's honest and like trying to do her own thing, getting a job and doing the right things, and has a, you know, some moral high ground. But hey, the other two characters on the other hand, man. Okay, Henry, tell me that Dexter did not take influence from this movie. I bet it did, because well, Henry is certainly a serial killer, and he goes fucking crazy, and he murders motherfuckers. He reminds me of Dexter in that, like, I feel like he has the, like, that innate need to kill somebody, because he kills everybody. He kills Otis, right, at the end. Then he also kills fucking Becky at the end, right? Like, he kills everybody, and like so randomly too, just out of nowhere. Like, they don't even have to cross him. He'll just walk in and kill somebody. So I feel like he has that need. They never talk about it, and they never explain it. The only explanation they give, that he gives for like why he is the fucked up way he is that his mother abused him as a child. I mean, it's kind of a boring, kind of stereotyped, typical, tried and true, you know, nurture versus nature way of looking at like a serial killer or somebody who's crazy. They were abused as a kid, or they saw some shit when they were a kid, or something crept in at their very impressible, or something dark crept into their minds at a very young and impressionable age. I don't know, but I like how they don't really explain / really elaborate on why the fuck he does what he does and why he's a fucking psycho who literally just kills everybody. Like literally. Otis, on the other hand, man, like you can't talk about this movie without talking about the characters, right? Otis is an awful person. He's a piece of shit. He's incredibly unlikable. He tries to rape his sister, poor Becky, and whenever they start kind of killing together, right? Because Henry's killed people forever, right? Pretty much. He killed his mother, and I guess at that point he just kind of started, and like throughout the movie you see him, you don't actually see him all the time killing people, but you see that he's killed many people, dozens of people. And so Otis has never killed anybody, right? But they go out and they are getting like, he's getting some head in the car or whatever, and then Henry does his thing and like kills him, and he's like, oh fuck, what the hell? And so he snaps the bitch's neck, and from that moment on he's like, all right, I'm gonna kill too. But Otis, while he is now a killer, he's also fucking like rapey as hell, like, and that's the thing that kind of separates him and Henry and makes Henry, I guess, a little more likable, because murder is murder and it's fucked up and it's crazy, and you see that a lot in movies, right? In horror movies especially. But it's the rapists and it's the people who torture. Those are the ones who are really fucked up. And Henry really doesn't do that. He kind of just kills them and then kind of gets rid of them. That's kind of it. He just kills them and it's done. Otis, on the other hand, he'll kill a bitch and he'll start like raping. He'll try to rape a bitch. He really fucking is just, I think he is the one who strikes up the idea for them to like record their murders, I believe. Like, Otis is fucking nuts. Otis is crazy. He's awful. He is about as unlikable in a admirable way in a horror movie sense, though. He's about as unlikable as it gets, right? And so early on, something that I kind of picked up on, right, when I was thinking about the title of this movie, Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, the score is awesome. I love certain parts early in the movie as well as in the end. Whenever the music kicks in, it's amazing. I like it a lot. I thought it reminded me a little bit of like When a Stranger Calls. And so you have the score, but you also have these moments where you don't actually get to see Henry murdering somebody, but instead it's like it shows the corpse, the aftermath, and while you're being shown and you're looking at this corpse like pan out, you'll hear the like violence. You see the aftermath, but while you're seeing the aftermath, you're hearing like the struggle, and you hear him break her neck, or you hear her screams of pain, but her corpse is just laying there, right? And that happens throughout the movie. And I was thinking about that. I was like, is it Portrait of a Serial Killer because like it's not necessarily, you're not looking at a picture, but it's just like the still kind of shot of just a dead woman? Is that what it is? Maybe. But also at one point during the movie, and this is when the movie really kicks into overdrive, and this is when the movie really gets fucking crazy, in a good way, I think, in a really fucked up, like the horror fan in me, right, is really when it starts getting nuts. They go out, Otis, this is after Otis has become a killer, right? They go out, they want to buy a TV because Otis is dumb and he gets mad and breaks his TV, whatever. And the guy is a kind of an asshole. The guy who's trying to sell them this TV in this like little garage or whatever. And they're just like, you know what? Fuck you. You were being an asshole, which he was. And they're like, I am going to stab you. And not only am I going to stab you, I'm going to fucking smash a TV on your head. Good God. Like, that scene is crazy. That was fucking bonkers. Like, it was funny because it was just so ridiculous. But like, honestly, man, like, it was pretty fucking brutal. Like, it was fucked up. It was fucked up. But once they smash the guy's fucking head in with that goddamn TV, they steal the, not only they get the TV, of course, but they also get the camcorder. And so that's when this movie really kicks it into overdrive and really turns into the unsettling and kind of horrifying movie that it's made out to be, right? And that it ends up being in the end. Because there are scenes where, specifically the one that sticks out, is they're watching the footage that they took when they went into that family's house and killed the husband and the wife and also the son. And I mean, good God, like that shit was hard to watch. Like that shit was rough. It was brutal, man. It was brutal. And like I've seen so many horror films, like blood and guts and shit doesn't really freak me out, and like jump scares and all that. But I mean, like watching that, dude, like that was disturbing. It really was. And I mean, Otis is a fucking animal, bro. Like Henry, he just kills people. Otis, he kills people, and he, is a bit of a necrophiliac. And at the end, he tries to rape his sister. Like it's awful. But another moment that just sticks in my head, the scene when shortly after Otis is acquainted with being a murderer, right after he commits the crimes on the prostitutes, were the whole scene where they flag down that car under that bridge and fucking shoot him with that gun. What the fuck? That is so ridiculous. It reminds me of in The Burning when there's just that random hooker kill. Like, I guess it serves as a purpose that they're just gonna kill people now, right? I guess in The Burning, he kills people, and in Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, Otis kills people, like, and he has. I guess it shows that he enjoys it, but it's just so, the execution is so ridiculous and so like, yeah, this movie was made on a $110,000 budget, clearly based on that scene alone. But that's kind of an outlier, But another scene that kind of sticks out in my head is they are like spying on this couple who's like mugging this person. And at first I thought it was the two of them mugging the person. I was like, who the fuck is recording it? But no, they're just like sitting there nonchalantly, just like watching this person get fucking mugged, like just recording, get some voyeurism there. Like, oh, this movie is fucked. This movie is definitely fucked up. This is a horror fan's delight. Rapper's delight, horror fans delight. This movie for sure. But through it all, I could talk about this movie for a while. Despite it being so short, so simple, for an 80-minute long runtime, it was excellent. It was. And for it just being about a guy who's a serial killer, I still was enthralled and I was still intrigued. Right? I thought Mr. Rooker's performance was fantastic. And like I said, I think he won an award for it. And it's a cult classic for a reason. And I mean, my biggest issue with it, honestly, I mean, it's got its issues for sure. I mean, it was made on a $110,000 budget. So, well, I believe the two primary characters that you follow throughout most of the movie, I think they both give good performances. There is some like butchered delivery every once in a while, but I mean, what do you expect? It's a low budget movie, and towards the end when Henry does murder Otis, there's that one little frame where he fucking stabs him in the eye and it's so clearly a fucking dummy. Oh god, it's so hard to watch. That shit made me cringe a little bit, but I think in totality, this movie, it's not flawless, no, but there's not any glaring issues with it. However, I will say this. It could be a tough watch. I was talking about, the Aliens of the world and Day of the Deads and these other movies where I was like 5 out of 5. I don't see any issues. Jaws. I don't necessarily see any big issues with this movie, but I don't think it's quite as enjoyable for me personally as those movies are, because the strongest point about this movie is how disturbing it is. And I think in a horror sense, that's a good thing. me personally, not a bad thing, but I do like my horror classics, if you will, to have, you know, some likable characters, some kind of fun or like really, really intense and like enjoyable aspect. I don't know. It's hard to quantify, really, but I don't know. I have a hard time giving this a 5 out of 5, despite the fact that I really don't think there are many shortcomings in it. I feel like the budget is an even greater. It adds to the legacy and it adds to, you know, the accolades and the reputation that this movie is really good and it's really great. However, I will say the reason why I don't think it's a 5 out of 5 is because I can't recommend this to my friends. This movie is way too disturbing for most people. Would not recommend it to friends. Would not recommend it to family. However, I absolutely would recommend it to horror movie fans. I don't know if I'd recommend it to film fans necessarily, but when it comes to fans of horror movies, I think this is a must see. I think it's a classic. I don't know if it's necessarily a slasher movie. I have not seen Maniac. That's one I might watch here soon. And so I'll be interested to see. I mean, it came out a few years before. It's a Tom Savini movie as well. I'm sure there's some sort of influence from Maniac throughout Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, but obviously I haven't seen it yet, so I wouldn't know. Um, but it's certainly a classic '80s movie. It's certainly a cult classic. It lives up to that status for sure. I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5. It's good. I would absolutely watch it again. I wonder though if I can watch it again with somebody else. Would I watch it with like a girlfriend or a friend of mine? I'd have to find the right friend, but it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. But I feel like most horror movie fans will find some enjoyment in this movie and will find qualities of admiration, whether it's in the performances, whether it's in the score, whether it's in the you know, just brutal aspects of some of what the characters do. I don't know. It's good though. It's great. I really like it. Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. Definitely exceeded my expectations because going in, I saw 82-minute runtime. I saw $110,000 budget, and I was like, this might just be one of those weird, like, you know, pretty decent, fun little horror movies, kind of similar to like Alice Sweet Alice. But no, it actually came out as you know, one of the best horror films, one of the best independent horror films from the '80s that I think I've honestly like ever seen. It's great, horror classic for sure.